As we prepare to enter a month focused on love, we thought a good place to start is always with a good definition. And while love can take on, you could say, a different look in various situations and relationships, my next guest is taking on the question, what is love really? Studio 5 contributor and psychologist Dr. Liz Hale is joining me. That's a big question. What is love really? Why do you think it's important to step back? We say these words every day, I love you, I love you. Why is it important to step back and sort of analyze what that means?
You know what's so interesting? You know what I hear a lot in my practice is, Liz, I don't even think I know what love is. My marriage is a mess. My relationship with my kids is a disaster. And I get that, and they're right. They're right. Just because we're good people doesn't mean we know how to love. Oftentimes my colleagues and I will say, love's a 4-letter word. It's often misused and abused and misunderstood. And we really need to get a specialized training on what is love? What does it look like? What does it sound like? And what is it not? Well,
we often hear love is action, but yet we just say it and go on our way. So I think a definition is a good place to start. You've broken this down for us today into an acronym. And let's start with the L. You say love begins when ears are open and you're actually listening to that other person.
It's so true. Remember the adage of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care?
Yeah.
Right? It's alive and well. This is probably my #1 mistake I make in therapy and in marriage and in every other relationship. Is, you just gotta zip your lips, right? And put on I have these big Dumbo ears. And sometimes I get out in therapy, these huge fat ears, so that I can remember, and I kind of tease my clients, that it really does matter just that we listen. We wanna know that someone gets us more than anything. And if I move on too quickly from that, I've lost a client.
And do you see it? Do you know?
I see it. Well, now I see it, hopefully. I bet I miss it still sometimes, and I'll say, you know what? I still don't think I get the big picture. Let's share me some more before we brainstorm. Let's go back and tell me more about that.
So I think that's a powerful teaching opportunity for the rest of us. What would those signs look like then if your partner doesn't feel heard, right? If you've moved on, we know if we're opening our mouth and the words continue to come out, maybe it's time to zip and listen. But are there any signs or nonverbal cues our partner could give us that they're not feeling heard?
Well, definitely. That's kind of where O comes in, if you don't mind, right? That's just observe. So keep your eyes out and observe. Is your partner looking downtrodden? They look discouraged or depressed. Their shoulders slumped. Are they kind of looking elsewhere? Mention it to them. Say, you know what, you don't quite seem like your right self today. Or I can't pinpoint it, but something doesn't quite seem right. You want to talk about it? I'd love to listen. And then again, zip your lips and just listen, right? The worst thing we could do is dispense advice prematurely, but observe. Something else we want to observe, Brick, is observe yourself. How do people that you love observe you? When they walk in a room, are you saying, hey, honey, how you doing? Or are we not looking up? Are we just so busy texting or typing? Or are we going like this, I am a very busy person and very important, please don't disrupt me. Because we're always sharing how we feel, right? But for better, for worse, we're always communicating. We can't help it.
If there were 2 buzzwords, I think, from the last year that have really entered, front and center, I'd say it was authenticity and vulnerability. And that's where the V comes in this acronym, is you've got to get vulnerable in relationships if you really want to share that deeper sense of love and connection. How do we get there, Liz?
Yeah, isn't that true, though? I got to tell you about this Harvard grant study. It was the longest study one of our longest studies of our day, 75 years. They followed these male undergraduates, 268 of them, and now many of them are 90s, even centennials.
Wow.
And they found out what does contribute to the success of life. Guess what it came down to? Love. And guess what the other concern was? Is pushing love away. When life happens, too many of us push love away. Isn't that interesting?
That's almost sad in a sense, because when life happens is when you want to pull your circles closer.
And life happens, right?
And life happens.
Things do not always go as we want them to. So am I going to push people away, or am I going to be pushed away, or am I going to stay in there and say, you know what, I'm not going to give up on loving this person, or being more loving, or learning how to do it better. So you hang in there. So love and not letting circumstances push love away. And for instance, like when there's a divorce, right? It's like, I'm never going to go down that road again. Versus, what can I learn from my past? What did I do? And what can I learn differently and have more success the next time?
You've brought our attention under the umbrella of love to this definition of real love as presented by one of your favorite authors, Gregory Bear. So I'm assuming this vulnerability connects back to that goal of real love. How do we let ourselves open up a little bit more in our day-to-day relationships even?
Again, it really kind of comes down to even empathy. People want to know that, do you get me? And I think all of us have that desire for one person to at least really understand us, right? I love Steve Covey's experience with teaching a father. See if you can hear the error in this man's statement. He says, I don't understand my son. He never listens to me. Right? We don't get understanding by being listened to, but by listening.
Those work against each
right?
other.
Exactly. And he went on to work with this man, and this man tried time after time again to work with his son. He goes, okay, son, I told I'm supposed to listen to you. I'm listening. Tell me what your problems are.
Oh.
Wasn't very effective, but about the 10th time, just as he was coming in the room and his son was going out, because that's often what happened, whenever he entered, he'd leave, he said, son, stop. You know what, I got to tell you something. Last weekend when you had your buddies over, I said something to you and I embarrassed you, and I could see it all over your face, and I am so sorry.
Met him there on his level.
Can you please forgive me, my mistake? And the son turned around, came to his dad, and he just started bawling and goes, I didn't even think you noticed. I didn't even think you understood. And that was the beginning of a new relationship for them.
And I love that you use the parent-teen example. That can be such a hard time of life, if you will, to crack through to those hearts and those young minds.
Yep.
But that empathy then can go a long way.
They just want to know you care. I had a mother this week tell me, I'm working with her teenage daughter, and she goes, you know, she writes me 5, 10 times sometimes, Liz, just saying, I don't feel good. And I'll be her cheerleader saying, you can do it. I said, you know what, have some empathy. Just say, I'm so sorry you don't feel well. There's some Pepto-Bismol in the kitchen sink, you know. See if that makes you feel better. Honey, you got to go to class, and when you come home, have a nap, and I'll call you when you get back, or something. Mm-hmm. But I hear you, I see you. I'm so sorry you don't feel well.
It's almost stepping away from the solution, the mom mode, a little bit.
Well, yeah, this daughter keeps telling her because she's not feeling heard. And then once she feels heard and feels like there's empathy, it's like, okay, yeah, mom's right, I'll grab the Pepto-Bismol.
Good advice. Listening, observing, vulnerability, empathy spells out this emotion, this goal that we call love. In the end, Liz, how will you know? What's the benefit of reaching this definition of love? What's the payoff?
It's absolute happiness. There's only one key to happiness, and that's being unconditionally loved and loving unconditionally. It's the key. That's all there is. 75 years worth of study proved it.
Love it. Love it, Liz. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.